Hello and welcome to Sensation Perception. My name is Alex and I will be your professor this semester. That rhymes. Sensation and perception don't really rhyme. The suffix there doesn't rhyme. So if you're trying to write a song about this class, you're gonna have to be a little bit more creative than that. So welcome to our class. This is a summer course, meaning that we are taking 16 weeks worth of content and shrinking it down, or compressing it, I should say, down to about 6.5 weeks. So we're moving almost 3 times as fast as we would during a normal semester. Now, before we get started with anything, there's something I want to that is very important for me to say, which is that my philosophy for online classes is that I want everybody in my online classes to feel like they get as close an experience to what they would get in an in-person class as possible. So I'm not going to be giving you just readings and then asking you to write about it or to take an exam on it after giving you some readings. I'm going to be, I'm going to create lecture videos for each chapter to kind of walk you through the content and things like that. I'm going to be giving you discussions that require you to be a little bit interactive, to do some real world things. That's just kind of, that's my style. I like for things to kind of be as close as possible to what you get in the classroom setting. Now, with that said, that's a lot of work, right? Because we're taking 16 weeks of class and we're going to push it down to about 3 times as fast as it normally would go, which means that each week we're going to be covering about 3 to 4 chapters worth of content, which is a lot of content. But presumably you knew what you were getting into whenever you signed up for summer class. So let's get into it. So this video will kind of walk you through what kind of assignments we're going to have and how we get from point A to point B. And then at the very end, I will walk you through Plato, in case you're unfamiliar with our university's online learning management system. So this is a very common optical illusion, which you can see right here. This optical illusion was very famously used. Any music nerds in the house will know that Animal Collective used this on, I think it was their 2012 album, Merriweather Post Pavilion. But the idea behind this, what's going on here, is that as your eyes wander across it, it appears that if it is moving. If you close one eye, it should still work a little bit, but it works best whenever you have both eyes open. And it works best whenever your eyes are moving across the screen. Whenever you stop and just look at one specific thing, you might have some movement in your periphery, but wherever you're looking is not going to be moving. And in case you think that I'm just trying to play some trick on you, you can pause this video and you can see that even whenever this video is not moving, that the screen will still be moving. So there's no tricks. I'm not trying to trick you. This isn't, any kind of gimmick. But we're going to be looking at a lot of perceptual illusions just like that throughout the semester, and the reason for that is because, and those of you that took cognitive psychology with me are probably familiar with this, there's a lot of parallels with cognitive psychology if you've taken that class already. But one of the reasons why I like perceptual illusions is because seeing where the perceptual system is wrong, quote unquote, why we have these errors, why do we perceive things to be moving when in fact they aren't moving, those kind of unusual, uncommon stimuli tell us a lot about how we perceive things normally. So it's not that I'm trying to say like, hey, look how flawed the human perceptual system is. It's by looking at these individual, strange kind of perceptual illusions that we can understand exactly how we normally perceive the world. It's just that in these other tiny circumstances, things go wrong. So let's talk about, so today's video, we're going to be talking about the course overview, the different assignments, and then a very quick breakdown for what we're going to be doing for the first week of class. So let's get into it. Here I'm going to run through a bunch of optical illusions. A lot of them I'm going to ask that if you're interested that you try on your own time, just because I want to try to keep this video a little bit short. This is a motion illusion. So what you're going to see is this window and this plastic straw are going to be spinning independently of one another. I know that doesn't sound like it's exciting, but whenever you watch it, it looks like magic. So check that out. If you want to know how that works, well, we'll be talking about that in Chapter 8 when we talk about motion perception. Here is another example, but this time how color and motion perception are related. So what you're seeing here are these individual figures. They are flashing different colors, and it looks like they are moving. The only one that's actually moving, though, is this one over here on the end. Now, what I would like for you to do, in case you don't believe me, is you can put your finger on any of these guys. So I'll do it right here. I'm going to put my finger right here, and you can see that it's not actually moving, right? But the way that the color is presenting itself looks like it's moving. So we're talking about that in Chapter 5 and in Chapter 8. Here is the blue and black dress. Very famous, very controversial. You probably saw this before, right? Because it was a meme back in the summer of 2014 or 2015, sometime around then. It's been a long time, so you may not have seen this dress in a while, but it caused a firestorm the spring that it came out, because some people see that, most people, about 66% of people, see this as a blue and black dress, which it is. But about 1/3 of everyone, so about 33% of everyone, see this as a white and gold dress. It's not a white and gold dress, but folks that perceive this as white and gold are convinced of it and have a really hard time seeing this as blue and black, just as those folks that see this as a blue and black dress have a really hard time even imagining how somebody could conceive of this as a white and gold dress. So why? Why is that the case? If you want to know, you got to fast forward to Chapter 5, where we will talk about color perception and talk about why that happens then. Here's one more example of kind of the intersection between color and movement. Here it looks like these lines are moving and the circle is moving, when in fact they aren't actually. And if you don't believe me, again, you can, if you put your cursor right here, you can see that it doesn't actually move. It just appears like it does. Alright, this one is audio, so I can't actually demo this one for you in this video, but if you check out this link, you will hear a sound. And that sound, some people perceive it as the word Yanny, some people perceive it as the word laurel. The interesting thing is that neither of those words sound alike whatsoever, right? They don't even sound close to one another. So which is it? So if you check out this video, this was a meme that was really popular 5 years ago, back in 2018. So you may even remember it. It was one summer in 2018. One summer in 2018. It was the summer in 2018. There was only, as far as I remember, only one summer in 2018. But if you check this out, it's really cool. It's a really cool demo. But yeah, we'll talk more about that in Chapter 11 when we talk about speech production and speech comprehension. Here is one that we can do. Just check out this little black dot right here in the center of this American flag. So take a look at that. And hey, you looked at a lot of American flags recently, right? Because July 4th was, as I record this, was yesterday. So if you're watching this on the first day of class, then all right. Anyways, I'm just stalling for time, because what I want you to do is to focus on that black dot in the center and just let your retinas soak up that information. Just let it soak up that color, because whenever I take away that stimulus and you're staring at the screen, what happens is that you still perceive an American flag, but this time you perceive it as blue, white, and red. Red, white, and blue. If you don't believe me, or if you moved your eyes too fast, or whatever, you didn't take it seriously, you can rewind. You can try it again. As long as you're looking straight ahead at the white screen right here, it should appear red, white, and blue. Why is that? Why does that happen? We'll talk more about that again in Chapter 5 when we talk about color perception. All right, here is this is one of my favorite examples of the color after effect illusion, where you can see somebody in real time. It's like a video. It's not just an image that it happens. Very cool for you to try. It only takes like 60 seconds. And then this video is also one of my favorites, because the last time nobody tell Professor Bressler this. The last time I showed him this, it was several years ago. I showed him this and I was like, hey, how cool is this motion after effect? It's like the color after effect that you just did, but with motion. So whenever the motion is gone, you still perceive the world to be moving around you, when in fact everything is perfectly still. I was showing this to Professor Bressler, and he was like, oh, please do not show that to me again. I'm going to throw up. So be careful. If you have a sensitive stomach, you may not want to try it out. But if you're like me and you like roller coasters and you like kind of that feeling of unease and that kind of tingly feeling of being on a roller coaster ride, check out this video. It's quite fun. So what the kind of questions that we're going to be answering this summer is obviously, what is the difference between sensation and perception? How are they different? What are each of these key terms? We're also going to be talking about visions, which means that we're going to be talking about how our eyes are able to kind of interpret the light around us and communicate that to our brain. We're going to be talking about sound, which is how our ears are able to detect vibrations in the air around us and turn it into sounds that we comprehend and recognize. We'll also be talking about car sickness. So why is it, and this is in chapter 12, why is it that we get car sick? Why is it that we lose balance? Why is it that when we ride in the passenger seat in the front of the car, we don't get car sickness, but when we sit in the back, we do? We'll be talking about touch and pain and thermal perception. Some people actually think of those as three separate senses: touch, pain, and thermal perception as being separate from one another. We're going to cover them in the same chapter. I don't really have a strong opinion about if you want to include them as separate senses altogether. That's okay. There's good argument that we should think of them as different. But we're talking about why it is that if I take this stylus and I barely rub it over my skin like that, it feels kind of good, feels kind of calming and relaxing. But if I do a little bit harder, why does it hurt now? It's the same arm, the same place, the same stimulus. Why does it create a different sensation? That is going to be in chapter 13. In chapter 14, we're going to be talking about smell, which is how we are able to detect chemicals in the air around us, which is really fascinating to think about, that we're able to smell chemicals around us and interpret what is in the environment based on that chemical. And then finally, the last chapter, and my favorite chapter, is chapter 15, which is about taste. So how does our tongue communicate to us how nutritious or how bad for us a piece of food is? All right, so whenever I took, sorry, I need a coffee break. Sorry. So whenever I took this class in college, it was, how old am I? It was over a decade ago. Oh my gosh. How exciting. This might be the first time I can say that it's been a decade since I took this class in college. I remember taking it in college, and I remember thinking it was an interesting class. And the reason for that, and honestly, to be honest with you, I don't think I really liked the class until kind of towards the end, where I kind of realized why it was being offered in the psychology department. And I say that because a lot of this class is going to feel like other areas of science. It would not surprise me if some colleges have this class in their bio department. If you've taken Dr. Manella's behavioral neuroscience class, it's kind of the same idea, where that class feels a lot like biology sometimes, right? It can feel a lot like anatomy as well. And so, back to, when I took this class a decade ago, one of the reasons why I liked it is because I think of this class as kind of like, this is really, and you can ask somebody else, because I'm not the only person, I'm the only person with an opinion on this, so there may be other people in our department who feel differently, but I think of this class as like, this is where behavior starts, because you don't get behavior without being able to perceive the world in some way, right? Pavlov's dogs wouldn't salivate if they couldn't hear the bell, or if they couldn't smell the meat, or if they couldn't taste the meat, right? So behavior, in my view, this is where it begins. It begins with talking about light, talking about sound, talking about tastes and smells, and learning how our bodies react to those stimuli. That sounds exciting, right? So for some of you, you're already pulling up my.westfield.ma.edu and you're looking at how to withdraw from a course because it sounds dreadful, and I totally understand if you need to do that. But I think that for some of you, this could be kind of a fun class because it's a big change of pace, maybe from other classes in the psych major. Because every once in a while, it'll feel a little bit like psychology too. All right, so this is the textbook. I sent you an email about this at the beginning of the semester, but just to kind of reiterate, it is okay if you get some of the earlier editions of this book. I really like this book. I know it's expensive, and I'm sorry about that. It is the best book on the market about sensation perception, and there aren't any free versions that are even close to being good enough to use in a classroom. So that's why if you want to get an earlier edition, I would say it's absolutely worth it to get an earlier edition. Whenever I was in college, I did not have a lot of money. Like, my scholarship had, I think it was $150 a semester for books, which usually meant I could buy one math book, right? And that was back in 2006 dollars. So if you are on a tight budget, I totally understand. If you can't afford or don't have the access to the funds to get one of these editions, just email me, let me know, and I'd be happy to work with you or see if I have anything that I can do to help you out there. Because I don't want you to make a worse grade or anything less than a perfect grade because you don't have access to a book. I don't like that idea. I don't think your grades should be tied at all to your financial situation. I think that's barbaric. So if you're in a tight spot, no big deal. I was in a tight spot too. Just email me and I'll see what I can do for you. This, and the reason why I say but beware is because if you get editions 1 or 2, I think those are maybe a little bit too old, where some of that info is a little bit out of date, and they don't include all of the some of the more interesting new developments that we've learned about the human body in the past decade or two. Because, as we're going to see this semester, there's still a lot that we don't know about how we see the world and how we perceive the world, and so there are things that are still changing and being added to this. It's not like math, right, where like an algebra book, has there been any new developments in algebra in the past 600 years? I don't know. Sorry, I'm not trying to cast shade on the math department. But why are those books so dang expensive, though? Seriously. Anyways, the reason why I like this book is because it is written by some of the world's best scientists. So Jeremy Wolff, for example, if you were to ask me, hey, who is the leading expert on visual perception in psychology? I say it's probably Jeremy Wolff up at MIT. If you were to ask me, who is the world's leading taste expert? I would say that's my personal hero, Linda Bartoshuk from Florida. And yes, she helped author the taste chapter. Rachel Hers helped author the smell chapter. That is her specialty. So one of the reasons why this book is great is because it's written by some of the experts in their fields, but I can understand why that means that sometimes they're a little technical and sometimes they're a little bit jargon heavy too. So that's why I like to, for every chapter I'm going to upload a video that kind of walks through that chapter's content to focus on the hard things and the kind of tricky aspects of that stuff to try to make it relevant to you and apply it to the real world. So if it works better for you to read this chapter and then watch the video, that's cool. Or if you like to watch the video and then read the chapter, that works too. Whatever works best for your learning style. So let's talk a little bit about the assignments and the course expectations. Okay, I'm being upfront here. This class is going to be a lot of work. You knew this because it is a summer class. Summer classes are always a lot of work in a short amount of time. That is true for our class, but this is true for my classes even in a normal semester, because every single chapter I'm going to have a couple of assignments for you. Every single chapter is going to have a quiz and going to have a discussion. So you got to watch out for those. And then generally every 4 chapters or so I have an exam. So that means that every week we're going to cover about 3 chapters, which means that you're going to have 3 quizzes and 3 discussions, and you're probably going to have 1 exam and 1 research quiz. That is a lot of work. It's certainly manageable, and honestly is something you could probably do over the weekend if you needed to, but it is a lot of work, and I wanted to be upfront about that before we go into this too much. And that's not intended as punishment. I really dislike busy work. I really hate busy work and the idea of just doing assignments for the sake of doing assignments. So every single assignment that I have in this class, I have a good rationale, or in my opinion, a good rationale for why I have it there. The quizzes are there to help you keep involved in the readings. The discussions are there to help you apply that information to the real world. The exams are there to help you synthesize and think critically about what you just learned. The research quizzes are there to get you involved in scientific literacy and get comfortable reading research articles and interpreting and extracting meaningful information from those jargon-heavy manuscripts. All of those things are important learning objectives in this class. If you're feeling like it's too much work and you need an extra day to do stuff, email me ahead of time and let me know, and we can talk about it. In addition to that, I generally do not like nitpicky or tricky questions. I'm not going to ask you about dates. I'm probably not even going to ask about people's names. I feel like that's not stuff I want you to take out of this class whenever you graduate. The things I want you to remember, those are the things I'm going to test you on. So the big ideas are usually the things that I try for. And all of our assignments are going to be very predictably due at the end of the week. So they're going to be due Sunday before the end of the day. So every single week, if it's Saturday, if it's Sunday, and you're like, I feel like I'm forgetting something, it might be your homework, because it'll always be due Sunday by 11:59 p.m. with 59 seconds, and so on. All right, so, and here's my little pep talk. Some of you have heard this before if you've taken another class with me, but I genuinely see myself as kind of like a coach in this class, where like I don't feel like I'm supposed to be your boss. I'm not here to, you're not trying to impress me. I don't think that's what your job is to do. What my job is I feel like my job is to give you the information and to give you all the tips, tricks, strategies, plays that I know, anything that I can do to help you learn this material and use it in a helpful way. So, with that said, I can't go out on the field and do that for you, right? Like if I'm the coach, I can't like run those plays for you. I can't go out and do those quizzes for you. But I can give you all, I can give you everything that I know that has worked for me in the past, that I've seen work for other students, to help you conquer the course material. Because I think of the course material kind of as like, that's the enemy. That's what we want to be. We want to do better than, we want to do that. All right, so that's kind of, so the reason why I'm saying that is because this fits back into what I was just saying about nitpicky and tricky questions. I would love it if everybody in our class did really well on the exams and did great on the quizzes and came out with an A+ for the semester. But I can't give you those grades, but I can give you everything I know, every strategy, every study technique that is helpful so that you can get there yourself. Here's some syllabus stuff. You can find this in your syllabus. You can also find it on Plato about when I'm available. But honestly, email is usually the best way to reach me because I usually don't get phone alerts or phone notifications whenever you send something to me through Plato. So if you send it to my Westfield email, I do get a notification on that, and I can email you back ASAP. Because I don't want you, because this is a summer class, I don't want you to have to wait longer than 24 hours to hear back from me, because that's essentially 3 days, right? If we're thinking about this as being 3 times the speed. So you can find me there. If you wanted to meet, I would love to meet with people over the summer. And if you want to meet in person, you can find me in my main psych office. It is up here in if you know where the main psych office is here in Wilson Hall, it is right there. I'm at the very, very back corner over here. That's where you can find me. But honestly, if you would prefer to work on Zoom, or if you would prefer to talk by phone, I would be delighted to do that. And I'm being absolutely genuinely serious here. I feel like one of the things I miss about, I like working over the summers, but one of the things that I don't like about it is that I feel like it's really easy to just kind of get our assignments and to focus just on that and to not think about our places in the larger classroom. And so I want to get to know you, just like it was a regular semester, just like it was an in-person class. So even if you just wanted to meet on Zoom just to say hello, or if you wanted to meet on Zoom before an exam and be like, hey, can I run some ideas by you? Or even if you just wanted to say like, hey, I didn't do good on exam number 1, can we go over the things that I got wrong? All of those things I would be extremely happy to meet with you in person or over Zoom to do, or over phone to do. And there, you just let me know when you're available, and I can find a way to make myself available. I know some of you have full-time jobs, you got family lives, and it's not always predictable. Anytime between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., I can try to make it work. Just let me know ahead of time. All right, so let's talk about the assignments. Sorry, the video is going a little bit longer than I hoped, but we're getting close to the end here. So the exams are going to be worth half of your grade. There are 4 of them. They are worth half of your grade, which means that individually they are worth 12.5%, which is not so bad whenever you think about it like that, right? That one exam is only worth 12.5% of your overall grade, which means that if you make a 0 on an exam, which is not going to happen unless you miss it, if you make a 0 on an exam, you can still pass the class. In fact, if you make a 0 on 2 exams, you can still pass the class. I would not recommend it. It's going to make your job, it's going to make passing much harder if you do that, but it's still possible. And we'll talk about what each of these things are in just a moment, but you can kind of see the grading breakdown that I have for you here. So most of it's going to be exams, a good portion of it's going to be your chapter quizzes, and then we have the other pieces here. All right, so if we break down those exams, we can see how much they account for your overall grade now. Much more manageable. Generally speaking, these are going to be a mix of multiple choice and short answer questions. The multiple choice, or that you can expect. I don't have to define what multiple choice is. You know what multiple choice means. But the short answer, usually I'm expecting a small paragraph between 3 to 5 sentences or something like that. Not, it doesn't have to be a whole essay or whatever. But it'll be about 7 or 8 short answer questions and about 12 to 15 multiple choice. Everything is fair game for the exams. I'm going to be pulling content from the textbook, from the lecture videos that we have, from maybe the research articles that I assign, or from the online discussions. I will be giving you a study guide, though, for each exam, just to help kind of focus your studies and you know what to look out for whenever you're engaging with those things. So, with that being said, it's not a bad idea to look at the study guide first before you even start studying or before you start doing the chapter work, so that way it lets you know, here are the things that Professor Alex, or that Alex thinks are the most important things. These are the things I should focus on as you go through this stuff. The final exam is not going to be cumulative. It's just going to be over the last 4 chapters. All right, so the quizzes. The quizzes are on Plato, as you would imagine. They're all going to be due Sunday by the end of the day. And generally speaking, I hope that you read the chapter, because I take all of these pretty much straight from the chapter. Some of them I'll let you know, like in the chapter things. Sorry, in the question, if it comes from the video, I'll specifically mention it. But most everything is going to come from the chapter textbook. And the reason why I want you to kind of read before you open up the quiz, so that way, if you're reading the if you're reading the chapter and there's something that's a little bit tough, then you can email me and let me know before you take the quiz if there's something that's a little bit alarming. But I think that with 12 multiple choice questions and a whole hour to complete it, what I find is a lot of students will just open up the quiz and open up the textbook at the same time and then kind of skim through for the answers. And that's totally okay by me if you want to do it that way too. It's just that I hope that eventually you'll get around to reading it, the chapter in full, and not just skimming through it. That is, you get 1 hour to do that. The chapter activities, these are discussions that you can find on Plato, and they are going to be open-ended questions, and they are oftentimes going to be kind of like these cognitive perceptual tasks. As we're going to see, cognitive psychology and sensation perception really work nicely together, and it's not uncommon for, in the college environment, for cognitive psychologists to also teach sensation perception, which is what I do. So there's going to be a lot of overlap here, so some of those tests we take might be a little bit cognitive, a little bit perceptual, but they're just meant to kind of get you, some hands-on experience with these perceptual things. These are all going to be due Sunday by the end of the day, and what I'm looking for each of these is just a post and a response. There's a rubric you can find on Plato that breaks that down, but for full credit, what I'm looking for is a thoughtful post that maybe makes some connections within the chapter from what we're doing here. That's not just you responding yes or no, to the discussion prompt. And for your response, I'm looking for something more than like, yes, that, or like you saying like, that looks, I love that for you, or now that you mentioned 2 + 2 = 4, I never thought about it that way. Good post, Jeremy. Don't do that stuff, because it's not a good use of your time, and it's not a good use of my time. It's not a good use of the person who made the post of their time. So what I'm looking for in a response is just for you to, think about what that person said and respond to it in an honest, genuine way. All right, the research quizzes. I don't have a final written project at the end of the semester. I used to do that when I first taught sensation perception, but students much preferred having something where we periodically every couple of weeks will do a research article together. And because this is an accelerated course, we're essentially going to have one of these each week. So we are going to have a research article that is really important to the field that I am assigning that's relevant to the chapters that we are covering. And yes, these manuscripts are very in-depth, they're very jargon-heavy, and they can be very intimidating. They are not easy to read. A lot of them are going to be using neuroscience techniques too, which makes them really hard to read. But remember that I'm not expecting you to read every single word of these manuscripts. One of the things that I think is whenever you're getting good at reading these manuscripts, one of the skills that you hone and sharpen and practice is learning what you can ignore and what things you should pay attention to while you're looking at this. So whenever you start reading stuff about here's the different specifics of the MRI scanner that we use to scan the brain, you don't, unless you're an engineer or a physicist, you probably don't care about any of that stuff, right? So that's the kind of stuff that I mean, if there's something that's too jargony, it's okay to skip it and come back to it if you feel like it's relevant. But so they can be a little bit intimidating, so I would not recommend doing what you do for the textbook chapters, where maybe you open up the textbook and the quiz at the same time. I would definitely set aside give yourself a good 45 minutes or so to read the quiz, read the research article first, try to understand it the best you can, and then if you feel good about it, taking the quiz or emailing me if you don't feel good about it. All right, these are going to be a mix of short answer and multiple choice as well. The short answer here, I'm really looking for maybe a couple of words or a sentence. I'm not looking for, so it's almost more like fill in the blank almost. And that's going to be due with the exams, which usually is going to be Sunday by the end of the day. If you require any kind of accommodations, just let me know. The makeup policy, generally speaking, I don't have a makeup policy, but this semester I think what I'm going to do is if it's a day late, I'm just going to deduct 10% and then 10% for each day that it's late. So I'm going to be posting everything more than a week in advance. So if you're going on vacation, then you can plan ahead. But if there's an emergency, let me know, and we can work with that. I'm not going to go. Well, I guess I should maybe talk about plagiarism and stuff like that. Don't plagiarize. Just don't do it. It's not a good look, so don't do it. Maybe I should talk about ChatGPT. I think everybody knows about ChatGPT. I love ChatGPT. And so I know that it can be easy to use ChatGPT to try to summarize important things. And in that regard, I think it can be a useful tool. If you're not sure about what lateral inhibition is, you can ask ChatGPT, what is lateral inhibition? And it'll give you an answer. But be careful with that, because it's not always right, and especially with sensation perception, where a lot of the things that we talk about are very specific and very technical. ChatGPT, in my experience, has done a very, very kind of crappy job summarizing some of this stuff. So be careful whenever you use it. But the other thing to think about is, remember that a lot of you are going to be leaving, whenever you graduate, and you're going to be doing counseling or therapy in some way, working with other people. Don't make a habit of using ChatGPT, because if your client, if your group, or whoever you're working with whenever you're a therapist, if they're like, hey, maybe my insomnia is really bad, is it because of I'm sleeping on my side instead of sleeping on my back? Does that do anything with my visual system? Are you gonna be like, hold on one second, and then ask ChatGPT? That's probably not a good look for you, right? To do that with a client in the room. It would be better if you knew that, right? It would be better if you were comfortable with that information and you knew how to convey that stuff, because this stuff does come up in therapy, believe it or not. When you talk about anxiety, when you talk about depression, when you talk about insomnia, when you talk about OCD, when you talk about lots of different things. So this is all just to say try to do it the best you can, and if you feel like the best you can do is still not, is not enough to pass the class, let's talk about it. Don't resort to cheating or plagiarism because for the sake of your future clients and future patients. All right, so let's move on. So that was my little speech. I hope you enjoyed my little speech. So the first week of class, nothing is going to be due. I'm waiting for everything to be due next Sunday. So not this Sunday, which is, what day would that be? Not the 9th, but the 16th. So things will be due on the 16th. That's because I know not everybody has gotten your textbook yet. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of chance, for that. So let's take a look at Plato so you can see what we do. All right, so here is Plato. This is what you as a student should see for right now. There aren't any announcements, but there's going to be an announcement whenever I send this out. But you can see here on the side lots of different things. The first thing you'll see is the announcement section. You got the contact me section, so that you can see where to, how to contact me, where my Zoom room is, all this other stuff. The course calendar showing you what's due, and here you can see that for this first week there is nothing due. But on the second week, what's due by Sunday night is going to be that. And then due the next week, and so on and so forth. So the first exam is going to cover the first 4 chapters, and that'll be not this Sunday, but next Sunday. I am going to, after today, open up these other chapters, not to overwhelm you, but just so that way, in case you want to work ahead of schedule, you're more than welcome to do that. And so over here, we have the start here. This is going to give you the syllabus. This is going to give you the discussion rubric I mentioned. It's also going to give you the slides to the presentation I just walked through along with this video. Chapter 1, you're going to see all of our chapters are going to have this same kind of flow, where it has this great little banner that I made for you. How cool does that look? It's also going to have the quiz for this chapter, the discussion for this chapter, the slides for this chapter, and the videos for this chapter. So you can see I recorded the first chapter's videos, and I broke those up into 4 bite-sized little pieces. I'm experimenting, doing these smaller videos. That way, in case you want to, you can, watch one while you're outside with the dogs, or while you're using the restroom, or while you're making a peanut butter jelly sandwich, or while you're driving to daycare. Please do not actually watch while you're driving to daycare, but you can have it on in the background. I've had lots of students say, hey, I use your lectures like an audiobook, and if I'm driving, I'll put it on, and that way I feel like I'm studying while I'm driving. You can do that as long as you're careful, or if my beautiful voice puts you to sleep, you can use it. You can turn it on and fall asleep and dream about sensation perception. But so each chapter is going to have about 3 to 4 videos covering that content, and those videos are going to be about 15 minutes apiece. So the quiz, the discussion. Moving on to the research quiz. So each research quiz you can find over here is going to have the quiz, the spot where you can download the article, and then a short video where I walk through that article and talk about why it's important and the key ideas behind it. Because even though this thing is only 6 pages, as you can see here, I guess it's not loaded yet or something, but it's only 6 pages, it's a very dense, very technical 6 pages. So sometimes people like watching these videos and then reading. If you prefer reading and then watching the videos, whatever works best for you, go for it. And then finally, the first exam I already have posted here for you, and you can find that there. Alright, so I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions while you're working on this, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in the discussion, which for this first week is going to be a simple icebreaker, so pretty straightforward type of thing. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you on Plato. Bye-bye.